aka the Musket Man, and I am back for another episode of Gun Table Talk. And as you can see right off the bat, we're in a new type of scenery versus my inside the house with the green curtains. Well, I wanted to do a gun table talk over a rifle, and I needed a little bit more room than I had in the house, and it's pretty outside, so I thought I might just come out and do a video. And guys, do I have a treat for you. I've got an 1863 Sharps Carbine, or Carbine, depending on where you're from. And this one is the black powder version, or the loose powder and ball version, whatever you want to say. So I just got this about 3 weeks ago and haven't shot it yet, but I have fallen in love with this thing already. So I thought it'd be a great opportunity to do a gun table talk video. So without further ado, guys, thanks for joining me in another episode. Let's get started. So right off the bat, I'll go over some of the history of this particular gun. Right about the time in the firearms world, and this would have been during the Civil War, even before the Civil War, everybody was using flintlocks, muzzle loaders, smoothbore muskets, percussion cap smoothbore muskets. Rifled muskets had started to make their way to the scene, and those were big advancements in firearms technology. But there was still a need for quicker reloading, more accurate way of shooting, stuff like that, just to make a better firearm. Well, that's when the Sharps rifle started coming out. So the Sharps rifle originally came out around the 1840s. It would have been an experimental weapon. It wasn't until about the mid-1850s is when you started seeing them kind of come on the scene. A lot of you know this gun from the famous movie Quigley Down Under. Now, this is not his rifle, obviously, but it is the same mechanism and the same way it fires. But as you can see, it doesn't have the rear set trigger, anything like that, but we will be going over that in just a second. So there is actually the early models of the Sharps rifles their breech in the back would have actually been slanted. Now we've gone over, as you can see, this is the percussion cap ignition version. Before that, because the breech would have been slanted, there was actually a way that that was experimental to get the gun to go off. So you would load your cartridge through the back, close the lever, and because it was slanted, there used to be a slot right behind the hammer where there would be these little percussion caps kind of deal, like a little cap that when you cocked the gun, cap would pop up, and as the hammer fell, it would fall on top of the nipple, thus igniting the gun. That way you didn't have to prime it every time, you just load it and shoot. There was also some versions, which some of you like me that grew up with the cap toy guns that had their roll. I forget the gentleman, his name escapes me, that designed it, where you would put that in the back that would also go behind the gun. When you cocked it, the roll would push up, put a new little primer in the top, and that was another way they did an ignition system. They even did that to some rifled muskets of the time, believe it or not. In fact, my 1855 Springfield Repro is based off that design. Now, what's the problem with that? Well, any type of bad weather, whether it's rain, snow, humidity, your misfire rate was through the roof. But it did work. So you, like I said, you would load your cartridge, close it, cock it, and fire without having to prime it. Seemed like a great idea, and it did work. But in bad weather, it didn't perform very well. If dirt got all up in there, it just didn't work very well. So they just kind of threw away that idea and went back to the percussion system, where you just put a cap on. Now, some of those could still take a percussion cap, so it's not like the gun was completely worthless. So they would still use those guns, just add on a percussion cap. But later models like this one and the 1859 Sharps and others, they kind of got rid of that system and just went to a plain old percussion cap system without any other style of capping, which did make for less parts, which was easier to clean and disassemble, and you didn't have to worry as much about the gun accidentally misfiring in the heat of battle. So this was a major advancement for those times. So again, this is during the war that people were still using muzzle loading muskets, even though they were rifled and they could reload faster than their predecessor, the flintlock smoothbore. it still was a genius design to come out even for those times. A lot of people that shot these, and soldiers and commanders, they loved this gun. In fact, that's where the term comes from, sharpshooters, or a sharpshooter, from this gun. Those that didn't know that, that's actually where that term comes from. And the old term, "old reliable," comes from the Sharps rifle, because it was a gun that was a little bit more reliable than the predecessor weapons before it. So you got to think, especially for those times, in the heat of battle, you want to reload as quick as possible, not only to defend yourself, but to win the battle, win a war, whatever you got to do, because if you've got enemy fire coming on you, you want to get as many shots off as possible, and that even goes for today's time as well. So this was a gun to have. So that's about it for the history. If you want to go in more detail about the history, which it goes into grave detail on the Sharps, there's even guns like this that were experimental, believe it or not, were Sharps, that don't even look like Sharps guns. So if you want to see that, I recommend you go to the History channel, check out Forgotten Weapons. Mike Bellevue does some great videos as well. I'm just going over the quick, my version of the history, and just going over these guns. Sorry about the dogs barking. So anyway, let's go over the gun itself. So right off the bat, some of you are probably going, that patch box doesn't look right, and there's some things that are a little different on this gun. You would be correct. So right off the bat, this patch box, and those that know a lot about guns, the originals and most of the reproductions, the patch box is in the back, and it's like a long rectangle with a little button that clicks open, so you could put extra caps, a cleaning jag, anything like that, patches, stuff like that, hence patch box. So this one, a guy made it. This came off of an M1 Garand, sorry them dogs, butt plate, and he just carved out the stock and put it on there. And it actually looks very good on this rifle. It looks like it was supposed to be there. So that's pretty cool. I like that. That's neat. And it's different. You don't see that a whole lot. Also with this reproduction, it is the cavalry version, but foot soldiers also use this as well. But because it's a short barrel, this made it great for cavalry use. So right off the bat, you can see on the other side of the gun, from here, this little dot here, to the frame of the back of the breech, there's supposed to be a bar with a ring inside it that goes across there. So the cavalry soldiers would have had like a bandolier of sorts with a little clip on the end that would grab the gun, so it would stay at their side, they could ride, whatever they had to do. So the guy that put this one together cut it off, as you can see, and it does make some noise. If you do have an original reproduction, that little ring, it does make some noise. So I'm assuming he cut it off to make it easier for hunting purposes, and you just didn't have that annoying jingle all the way around. What else about this? This is a gun that is made out of original and reproduction parts. The barrel and the breech itself are Italian-made reproductions, but a lot of these parts, I have no idea. According to the guy that put this one together, he took all parts he had and made the stock himself to put this gun together. And he did a great job. So some of you are probably wondering, oh man, that's a really old gun, that's an antique. Unfortunately, no. But it does have some old parts in it, which is pretty cool, that were from that original time period. So if it's a handful of screws or a spring, hey, it's still cool. You have something from that era, so don't complain too much. But as you can see, if you look at the gun, it looks rustic and old. Will you be correct? I believe the guy that made this just got it defarbed to make it look like an antique. And he did a fairly good job, because it looks exactly like an antique. This is a 54 caliber, not a 58 or a 50, even though there was some in 50 calibers. That's a topic for another time. But this particular model is a 54. Now, I won't be going over the paper cartridges or anything like that, even though I have made some. I'll be going over them in just a second, but I won't be going over much. This is just over the gun itself. This gun was also designed to shoot paper cartridges that shot a bullet, or linen cartridges, believe it or not. Linen that has been starched and stiffened up, and that is historically correct as well, they would load into the back of these guns to make a stiffer cartridge, because by that time metallic cartridges were around, but they were still experimental. So that made for a stiff cartridge that was more, I guess, susceptible to weather. You didn't have to worry as much about it getting wet or something happening. So it shot both. You also can load loose bullet and powder. Simply, you just drop your bullet in to the back of the breech, into the barrel, pour your powder charge, close the lever, and you're ready to shoot. Cap it, you're ready to shoot. That is also a way you can shoot these. If anybody is wondering, can you shoot round balls out of these? Yes, you can. You can shoot round balls out of these, but from all the research I've done, it is horribly inaccurate. It's just as accurate as a smoothbore musket with a paper cartridge. So it will shoot it, but past 50 yards, you're not going to be very accurate. Everybody I've researched on says the same thing on that. So if you want, you can, but I recommend you get the proper bullet mold to shoot out of these, which there's different types as well. I have the Richmond bullet from Arizgon Bullet Molds that I got for this particular gun, and can't wait to go shoot that to test that out. Also, as you can see, going back to the sling, the guy that made this on the barrel band, he brazed the sling swivel so you could put a sling. And as you can see, the hole in the back where another one was, it fell off. I don't know where that's at. Of course, I can replace that if I want to. So I can tell when he made this, he wanted it to where it was a sling that you could put on your shoulder and go hunt with, versus listening to that jingle of that ring and all that stuff. So I could tell he was wanting this to be a gun you shot in the field, and he did a fantastic job of making this. The only part that's missing in the rear sight, as you can see, if I can get it to pop up, it is stiff, come on. The elevated rear sight is missing. I did buy one, but it was the wrong one, so I'll have to do more research to get that. But it is a carbine, so typically 100, 150 yards, that's pretty much your max range. Now, they'll shoot out further, trust me, and you know, Quigley proved that in the film. These can shoot out farther. So with the Buffalo or competition ones, or the infantry, which is just the longer barrel one with the 3 barrel bands, yeah, you get good at it and you get your powder charge figured out, you bet you can shoot way out there. But for this gun, I'm probably just gonna shoot 100 yards at the max, 150 if I figure it out. So that's about it for this particular gun. A neat little thing I like about it is on your lever, you've got this little, I really don't know what you call that. Forgive me, I don't know the proper term for this part here. But as you can see, that allows me to work the lever. But if you press this little button and pop it up, it locks the lever in place. Now, they did that because of cavalry use, or you're running, you're bouncing on the horse. They did that so the lever did not fall open, you lost your cartridge, or something happened. So that's what that's there for. So if you go tromping around in the woods or something shooting this, you can pop that up and you don't have to worry about that falling down. When you're ready to shoot or have to load, you just hear that click, it releases it so you can work the lever again. So pretty neat design. When I got this, I got it from a buddy. You would think it looks like it's hard to take apart. It is actually very easy to disassemble and clean. And there's a lot of videos out there on how to do that. I plan to have more videos on that after I take it out and shoot it. And I plan to have a range video over this. This is the first Sharps rifle I've ever owned, and I haven't even fired it yet. So I am super excited to get to do that. I will make sure to do a range video over this beauty when that day comes. Also on this, as you can see, gun's not loaded. As you can see, that rear sight is not that tall. Well, originally they shot high. Typically they taught the soldiers aim for a button, the belt buckle, and that's where it's gonna hit. So I don't know where this one's gonna hit. I'm assuming this is the original front sight, so it's probably gonna hit high. He did do a trigger job to this, and the trigger pull is only about 2 pounds. So that's gonna help a lot with accuracy. Well, anyway, guys, I hope you've enjoyed this episode over the 1863 Sharps Carbine. Remember, keep your powder dry. I'm the Musket Man. We'll catch you guys in the next episode. Thanks for watching. See you later, guys.